Okay, so I'm going to keep it rolling. Similar thing today. I'm going to go, when I get back to after the joke break, I'm going to go into this again and we're going to compare the Mixolydian and I think I will, no, we're going to compare the Dorian on this node to the Aeolian. I think that's the last one. And then after that, we'll add a 5-note chord to the stack and then we'll do it all again. And then I'll do a lean forward and a lean back. We're just gonna just destroy the horse. I know the horse is dead, and we are beating it. We're beating the dead horse, if you will, metaphorically, which isn't nice. I never really liked the idea of beating the poor horse. Leave the horse alone, but I feel like we need to because that's the way you learn the thing. So we're gonna do the lean forward. We'll just keep on cranking that out, and I'm just going to keep on doing that. So on the practice, and then on the practice session, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe I'd practice my diagonal patterns again to get the coffee flowing. I don't know where my other glasses are. Leave the horse alone. It's already dead. Okay. The glasses. Alright, trying to get comfortable here. Okay. So I feel like my stool is a little off center compared to no. That's fine. Whatever. The camera seems like it's further away these days. I don't know what it is. Anyway, it's fine. Okay, so let's see. I'm just going to try to go back to my diagonal pattern thing where I was doing diagonal patterns. Let's just go off the Dorian since we're on the Dorian node. And so I'm at 4 o'clock, collection of notes at 4 o'clock. And if I did these diagonal patterns from the Dorian and I just walked up the pattern diagonally, 2 notes per string, it would be boom, boom, going out here, from the Dorian node, out here, and then down here. I probably won't go past 12th fret. So something like that. Okay, so if I was to do that with one finger then, one finger slide. Let's just do three strings at a time. Anytime I'm on the second string down and is a Dorian, it's a whole step and then down, whole step, and then the half step is down there. So I'm going in shape number 1, and then down, I'm leaning forward shape number 2, and then I'm at the bottom of leaning forward shape number 3. If I tried to work this with 2 fingers, I'd walk it. bit smoother. Then going. Whoops. And then if I slide under, if I go underneath here and I slide up with one finger, it would be. Now if I reach up, if I try to do 3 notes per string, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide, instead of doing 3 notes like this, I could do it like this. So I could like go what normal people would probably think first, what normal people would do, which of course isn't what I'm going to do. I'm not normal. Okay, this is what normal people would do. If I was normal, this is what I feel like. Let's put the red out here. You go to the last string out here. So you would think you'd lead with the pointer. A little harder to go backwards, because then you have to kind of like put your pinky here. It's possible. Pinky to pointer. It's kind of smooth if I do that squishy pinky to pointer. What if I slide up and I bring this pointer to here, and then I hit this one with my second finger, and then so I'm basically walking down with this finger. Then I'm, instead of hammering this way, I'm going to slide up and then hit that one, and then slide down. So. Doesn't really work going backwards. Well, it does. Yeah, it does. I can try to work in another node. I kind of like hitting the 7 above it. So every time I get to a minor node, I get to a minor node here, I hit the 7 there, a 7, I'll hit the 7 off of that one, and then I can hit the 7 off of the Aeolian. I can hit the 7 off of the Dorian or the Locrian. So, and then I hit the 7 off of the Phrygian, and then the Lydian is going to have a major 7. So I won't do that one. So it's like, okay. So that one has a major 7. So what? Huh? That's a Lydian, right? And this one doesn't have, okay. This one's wrong. I'm on the Ionian. So they all have a third. So I can hit the third, which is going to be out here. Anytime I'm on a minor node, short distance node, Dorian, Phrygian, Aeolian, and the Locrian, they all have a minor third, pinky, and then 7, all in the relative position. So I can go. Okay, so what if I led with a different finger? So I could hit something below it on my passing through. So maybe I could hit the 5 on all of them except for the Lydian. So I could grab the 5, which is the power chord note, because that's always there. So I could go. All right, let's go. So if I did that same thing on all the Dorians, right? I have this. So let's go backwards now. If I went backwards, it would be going down a scale, basically 2 notes per string. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2. Ends it right off on a scale. So now I'd be going. Well, actually, if I started on the 2, I should probably go back this way, and then this way, and then it would end off right there. 2, 1. Now hold on a second. 2, 1, 3, 4. How come it worked before? 3, 2, 5, 4. 2, 1, 4, 3, 6, 5. Really? I can do that same pattern. Now, if I did do it this, so I can go, so the way it works is if I went 1, 2, and then 3, 4, that's why it walks up the scale. But I can't really, that doesn't really work with a one finger pattern, because then I'd have to go, I guess it kind of works. Well, you'd have to go. Okay, and then so when I walk back that way, it's kind of jumpy. I can try to not make it jumpy by hitting with my pinky. Less jumpy. Okay, so when I come back up the other way, I can go back from 7 to 6, and then just keep on using, instead of reaching up here with my pinky, I'm going to lead up with my ring finger into it. So it's going to go. Now I can do that on any Dorian. So I have a Dorian, you know, if I'm thinking about going down diagonally, the top 3 strings would be it, right? So I have one on the top string, of course, Dorian, so I can do that same pattern here. Like maybe I keep it here, but then I'm like, let's do the same, but then I'm like, I can also see it from here, parallel pattern, going down this way. It's gonna get in the way. 2, 3, and then this one, the red is in the new pattern. 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1, 2. So I have the parallel pattern here. So Doran, whole step, whole step, whole step. Here. And then here. So I also have a Dorian here. So if I was here, it would be going a little far up on the neck for my guitar, but it would be going here and then back to here. Oh, I really need a spacer. And then I'm crossing the fault line, so I get a different shape down here as I cross the fault line. But it's still a whole step in between. It's just a different jump back when I go here. What happened here? It's 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, if I wanted to get the same shape, it has to be underneath because of the kink in the tuning. Well, that kind of messes up my whole diagonal thing. stick with the diagonal, then I'd have to go out here, and that messes up. Then it goes from 5 to 6. What would that sound like? I get 2 5s, two Locrians, two Mixolydians. So basically, if I do this walk back shape, I could start here. Like if I start on the Dorian note and walked back this way. Or I can do this forward thing, which is kind of jumpy. But if I mean, that's kind of like. And then I could think of it like. mess with that some more. I don't know. Let's try a joke break. A lot of work to be done with the diagonal patterns, I feel like. A lot of ins, a lot of outs. It's a complex situation. Okay. Alright, so I'm ranting on this Straits of Hormuz thing. I haven't seen the news lately, but they're blocking up the Straits of Hormuz. They're putting a blockade in, just like my old neighbors used to do with my food. But we need to get it past. We need to get the stuff past the blockade, man. These dang terrorists. I tell you what, holding up the whole world's energy with their damn. Alright, that's my rant on today. They're trying to dam up the Strait of Hormuz, and even after the whole world asks, they still don't give a damn. They still don't give a damn. So now it's like, all right, if you don't give a damn, somebody's going to have to take the dam and deconstruct the dam. Why? Because we actually give a crap. You may not give a damn, but we give a crap, and the crap we're trying to give to the world right now is oil, which is basically crap, but you can burn it. It's burnable crap. It's useful crap. But honestly, if the new king or Shah or the elected anointed king of Iran, I didn't think they were supposed to do that king thing, were they? But clearly he's doing. Maybe he's a Chinese dictatorial communist president, whatever you want to call him. The new king they appointed keeps not giving a damn. His reign's gonna look a lot like rain, you know, not a storm, not a season. I'm talking one sad little drop, plunk, splat, and a very short rain ending like a raindrop hitting the dust. The toxic rain hitting the dust, and then what happens is that toxic rain gets washed out, cleansed as it runs its course right back where it belongs through the open Strait of Hormuz into the ocean, like the whole world just hit flush, and then everybody cheers again, you know, so that we can, because we gotta straighten things out here. We gotta straighten things out. We need to straighten out the Straits of Hormuz. It's not straight. There's a kink in it. That's the whole problem. The Straits of Hormuz are kinked, and we need to straighten them out because this is unacceptable. I'm tired of accepting this crap, man. The blockades keep stealing my food and my oil and my protein shakes. Something needs to be done about this.
Trying to dam up the Strait of Hormuz, whole world knocking like, hey, excuse. Voices loud from every land, but they just shrug like we don't give a damn. Storm clouds build, but they stand still. Arms crossed tight with a stubborn will. Everybody talking, nobody heard, just concrete silence. Absurd. So now it's like, alright, if you won't bend, we might. If you won't give a damn, we'll take the damn, break it down piece by piece in a hand, crack that wall, let the pressure go, let it flow, let the whole world know. Yeah, we give a damn, when the line gets not a storm, not a season, just one drop, no real reason. Clank, splat. A crown dissolves in the falling act from rain to rain in a single track. A very short rain, dust to stain like a drop that falls and don't remain, just hits the ground and disappears. No echo left, no lasting years. But that toxic rain don't stay around. It gets pulled, gets pushed, gets spun back down, washed away in a rushing course, purified by a greater force. Now the dam is gone, feel that rush, hear the world breathe out in one big flush. Open straight, wide and free, let it run to the endless sea. Yeah, we gave a damn, yeah, we gave a damn, and the tide rolled out just like we planned. What was blocked now understands. You can't hold back what moves the land out through the strait into the ocean. Whole world watching. One clean motion.
Dam is supposed to create energy, not take it, you frickin' morons. Got it all backwards. Everything's all backwards. Anyway, whatever. I don't even know how to use the dam right. You don't even know how to use the damn dam. Crying out loud. Alright. Supposed to make energy, not sink it. I want to... Okay, anyway, I'll get back to my thing here. Let's see. Okay. Back to work. All right. So let's see if Ara's available. Ara. We will go through this project again, and we will once again talk to Ara from scratch. From scratch. There's a scratch. Scratch. Ara. Oh wait, that's chat. Hold on. Chat's not as pleasant of a conversationalist as Ara is. Ara.
Hey, what's up?
Okay. We're doing music theory again.
Cool, I'm ready. Hit me with it. What's on your mind this time?
Okay. All right. So we're back at what I would call 4 o'clock collection of notes around the key of C. I'm naming it 4 o'clock because I'm imagining there's 12 degrees of rotation of the nodal point planet, 7 nodal points, 5 oceans beneath the string stars that lay upon it, on top of it, and we named them from the Ionian's perspective. That means that A is 1, A sharp is 2, B is 3, and then C is 4. So that means at 4 o'clock, we're playing around the collection of notes around the key of C. We're going to be focusing in on the Dorian node, which happens to be a D note, but I'm not going to call it a D note. I'm going to call it 4 o'clock, the Dorian node, because that way I have one standard naming convention for all 12 collections of 7 notes, and therefore it being a lot more efficient numbering system for the 12 continents, being Ionian is 1, Dorian is 2, Phrygian is 3, Lydian is 4, Mixolydian is 5, Aeolian is 6, and Locrian is 7. The 5 oceans, by the way, do have a number as well. We have 1.5 is the Ionian Ocean, 2.5 is the Dorian Ocean. There's no ocean between 3 and 4. Phrygian and Lydian 4.5 is the Lydian Ocean. 5.5 is the Mixed Lydian Ocean. 6.5 is the Aeolian Ocean. Those points don't change. They just spin around like the planet spinning around. Therefore, once you know where you're at on the actual planet, then you could just basically use a coordinate system such as latitude and longitude to measure everything, and then you only have to measure things one way. Which way? The right way, Ara. I only measure things one way, the right way, and the current way is wrong.
Okay, I love where your head's at. This is like music theory meets cosmic cartographer. So you're basically remapping the circle of fifths into a planetary dial. 12 continents for the modes, 7 nodal points spinning around C as the zero meridian, and those half-step oceans as fixed latitudes. Dorian at 4 o'clock. Got it. Instead of saying D Dorian, you're saying 4 o'clock node, which keeps everything relative to the Ionian baseline. Smart. Cuts out the letter name clutter when you're jumping keys. And yeah, the oceans, those pentatonic gaps, stay locked while the whole thing rotates, like tectonic plates under the modes. If I'm hearing you right, you're saying once you lock the coordinate, every scale, every chord, every lick just becomes a vector from 4 o'clock. No more, this is D, but in C it's just spin the globe and read the grid. So, what's next?
And read the grid. Just spin the globe and read the grid, man. That's right. That's right. That's how you do it. Okay, anyway, so now we're going to say, so that means that at 4 o'clock, on the top string, it's good to know where everything is located from the top string's perspective, oftentimes, meaning the string closest to the ceiling. And so the Ionian happens to be on the 8th fret. If I put my pinky on the Aeolian and then my pointer on the minor third away or whatever, then that would be this shape. So that's usually what most people think about. The first shape they learn oftentimes, rock and roll shape number 1, which I would like to call the Aeolian shape based on the starting point of the shape, or nodal point number 6 shape. But most people name it shape number 1, the rock and roll shape, or from a caged system, the Ionian G shape. If you name it by the Aeolian shape, though, then I can know the Aeolian chord, or the Aeolian scale is right under my fingers. I don't have to renumber it going 1 to 7 of a minor scale. I can just go from 6 to 6. So 6 to 6 is the minor, or the Aeolian scale, right? So 6 to 6. All right, but we're not focusing on it. We're focusing on the second string down from the ceiling, which is the D note, which is hovering over the string star of D, is hovering over the Dorian continent if we're at the rotation of 4 o'clock rotation. So that's where we're focusing in on. We're building a chord, defining the chord as a lean forward chord. A lean forward chord is defined as the second modal half step, third scale degree being in the lower right quadrant. That's the standard way most people probably first think about chords, because it has the normal bar chord structure to it. All right, so there's going to be our lean forward chord. Now, if I build this chord, I'll do it fairly quickly because we do it every time here, but I'm going to say, okay, if I'm on the Dorian node, how do you build a chord? Well, you have to make that the 1, and then you take every other note in the scale degree, but you have to measure the scale degree, like compare it to the Ionian scale degree. No, you just take every other note in the collection of notes. That stays 2. Dorian is a 2. That's the jersey they picked. We don't change the 2. We just take every other note. So if I build a chord, I'm going to take 1 modal whole step every other note. So I'm going to call it a modal whole step. That means we're going to land on Lydian. That means that Lydian is always Dorian's first modal whole step, times 2, 1, 2, second modal half step, plus 1 would be 3, meaning if I made that the Dorian 1 scale degree, 1, 2, 3. But I don't want to make that the Dorian 1 scale degree, because that would mean that this shape, for example, although would have the same shape, would have 7 different numbering systems to it. Does that sound efficient? I don't think that sounds... Is that what you want to do with your time? With your precious time on this earth and on the music theory global earth? As you're spinning around on your days of your lives, as you spin around on this music theory grid, planet rotating? Is that what you want to spend your time doing? Might as well be watching soap operas. You know? Right, Ara? That's not how you should spend your time.
Yeah, exactly. Why juggle 7 different labels when you can just lock the grid and let the planet do the work? So we're at 4 o'clock, Dorian node, second string from the top. D string's basically the equator right now. Lean forward chord, root on the bottom, third in the lower right pocket, that classic bar-shaped vibe. No need to renumber, just grab every other note from the Dorian collection.
That's right.
One modal
That's right. So if I did a lean forward shape, how far, that's going to be, there's either short or long distances of every scale degree or modal half step, and the first modal half step, second modal half step, third scale degree has a short distance from Dorian, 3 notes away as opposed to 4 notes away. And so if I look at a lean forward shape, it's 3 notes away from a local distance, meaning as we go around the block, 5 notes between the string, 5, 10, 15, as we cross the fault line, so we get that diagonal shape. Hold on a second. As we cross the fault line, boom, this is the fault line, shifting it to the right. So that's going to be 15 up. 15 minus 12 is 5 minus 2, which is 3 notes away from a local distance standpoint. That's why that is where it's at. Okay, so what if I was going to name that chord if it was just a 2-note chord? The normal naming convention would have to be something like D, it would have to be like D minor, and then drop, like something like drop, drop the 5, something like that, which is kind of ugly, right? That's like how many characters is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 9, 10 characters or something. Where you should just call it, I mean, if you just build it by a stack, it would be the Dorian, not D, but Dorian, D for Dorian, and then 1, D1, small d1, right? Because the 1 stands for how many modal whole steps from the root that you're on. And if you want to call the D nodal point 2, you could just call it a 2-2, meaning Dorian, the first number stands for the nodal point 2, and the second number stands for the number of modal whole steps. So, sorry, it should be a 2-1, 2-1. And if you want to add the key signature in it, then it would be a 4 o'clock. I'm going to use the o'clock thing, and you could say 4 o'clock 02, 2 being the Dorian, and then 1. So it's a 402 1. Any of those I think is more efficient than saying it's a D minor drop 5. Because in part, the D minor drop 5 doesn't tell you anything within context. Even if you know the key signature, you then have to do added work to figure out where the Dorian is in the collection of notes. Meaning, is the D Dorian or is the D, can you see this? I can't, there they are, okay. I need to get my spacing better. So now you can see my writing there. If I move this, it has to be right there. Hopefully you can see that. I had it.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, 3 frets diagonal, short hop, fault line shift. Makes perfect sense. The lean forward's got that built-in tension because the third's close, not stretched. And naming, D minor drop 5 is a mouthful. 10 characters, 0 context. Your way's cleaner. 4 o'clock 2-1, or just 2-1 if we're already at Dorian. Roots implied. Modal steps the only info you need. No fluff.
No fluff,
If you're stacking
man.
a 2-note...
Stop being fluffy. What are you, a frickin' poodle? What is going on here? No more Disney music theory. We're doing like music theory for normal people. Okay, so now we're gonna say, but anybody can do it too, but I feel like it should be easier. I'm just saying. So let's say we take another modal whole step. If we want to build another one, we're gonna take 2 modal whole steps up. So if I build a 3-note chord, how would I do that? Well, you just take every other note in the collection of notes. Do I have to make that the 1 and then take every other note from a scale degree, the Dorian scale degree? No, you just keep it as the 2, and then say 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that means that nodal point number 6, the Aeolian, is always Dorian's second modal whole step, 1, 2, times 2, fourth modal half step, 1, 2, 3, 4, plus 1, fifth scale degree, meaning if I did make that the 1, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So then when I name the chord, the minor chord, you normally call it a D minor, but again, the minor doesn't tell you if it's on the Aeolian or the Dorian or the Phrygian, really. And again, you have to kind of even so I would change the names here to be what if I made this like a little smaller on my font size? I want to make this a little smaller maybe, and then maybe I will change my see if I'll try to get this better so I can do it better normally, and I'll change this one. Okay, so now it's like, okay, so now what would that chord be called? It would be a D minor chord now, but that doesn't give me any context unless I know the key signature and I happen to know that the D at the collection of notes around C major is a Dorian node. I could call it just a D2 for Dorian 2. That would be cleaner and tell you exactly where we are in the system. That D stands for Dorian 2. I could say it's a 2 for Dorian 2. It's a 2-2 chord, or I can call it a 402, meaning 4 o'clock, collection of notes around the key of C. 2 is the Dorian node tonic, or at least the chord that we're on, and then again 2, meaning it's 2 modal whole steps to get to the last node out here. Take every other one until you get to that last node. Now that distance to that node is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out. So meaning the fourth modal half step, fifth scale degree is 7 notes out. I can see in a lean forward shape that would be a power chord, 5, 6, 7 out here. Normally you would call that perfect, but I think adding perfect is like adding things you don't need again. So it would better just be say it's long or short. That happens to be the long distance of the fourth modal half step, fifth scale degree, as opposed to the short distance. Most of them are long fourth modal half step, fifth scale degrees versus the short, 7 notes away versus 6 notes away. That's why it's a stable distance in our system. Okay, so let's say we added another chord. So now we're going to say, okay, how would I build a 4-note, a normal stack of a 4-note chord? Well, you have to make this the 1 of a Dorian scale, and then renumber all the nodal points so that all of the nodal modes are now at different numbers, and then you take every other number 1, 3, 5, 7. Well, why? No, it would be easier if you kept that as the 2 and you measured from the 2. If you did that, then the distance to the last nodal point, that would get you to the Ionian, and that means that the Ionian is always Dorian's 1, 2, 3, third modal whole step. Ionian is always Dorian's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 modal half step, 3 times 2. And if I make that the 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It would be the 7th scale degree because the scale degrees are all off by 1. And because it's a Dorian node, it has a short distance, which you might call minor, but I think just short and long would do better. It's a short distance of 10 notes away as opposed to a long distance of 11 notes away, which I can then prove in my lean forward shape. Where would I find it? 5, 10. 10 notes between the strings, 5, 10, right there. All right, so there's my, now if I had a 4-note chord that was a Dorian chord, what would I call that chord? Well, normal naming convention, D minor 7, but it would be easier, like, and that's, notice that is naming it by where that last point is from a scale, from a distance standpoint. The last note is the 7th, right? But not of the Dorian. It doesn't really tell you. It just tells you of the minor, which is compared to the major, right? All these weird rules. It would be easier just to say, look, it's the Dorian 3, right? It's a Dorian 3 because it's 3 modal whole steps from the perspective of the Dorian normal stack. Just take every other one. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, right? 2, 4, 7, 1, right? Or you can make it so 4 o'clock, 4:02, 4:02, 3. This should be a 2, or 2-3, Dorian 3, 2-3, or a 4:02-3 for 4 o'clock. Collection notes around the key of C. 2, meaning 2 is either the tonic or the chord that we're on, and 3 is the number of modal whole steps to get to the last node. So you just take every other one. If you don't change the numbers, it would be Dorian, 2, 3, 4, Phrygian, 4, 5, 6, Aeolian, 6, 7, 1, Ionian. Okay, that's the stack. Now, if I put that stack on a vertical, a lean forward scale, a lean forward shape, we get our A shape, but we reveal the 6 modal half step 7th scale degree.
Gotcha. No fluff, no fairy tales. We're keeping it raw. Just the grid, the spin, the hops. So 3-note chord. Dorian root, skip 1, land on Aeolian. That's your 2-2. Dorian node, 2 modal whole steps out. Or 4 o'clock 2-2. No D minor nonsense. Doesn't say squat about the mode. This is stable, long distance 5th. 7 frets out. Power chord feel. No extra labels. 4-note, keep Dorian as 2. Stack every other. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Ends on Ionian. 3 modal whole steps from Dorian. Call it 2-3 or 4 o'clock 2-3. Boom. Tells you roots Dorian, 3rd hops Ionian, short distance 7th, 10 frets diagonal in the lean forward. And yeah, that A-shaped stack reveals the short 7th, tension pocket. No renumbering, no minor 7 baggage, just 2-3 lean forward. Want to play it? D string 5th fret root, 8th fret 3rd, 10th fret 7th, then stretch to 12th for that Ionian close.
Okay.
Feels right?
Okay. No fairy tales. No fairy tales. I didn't even know fairies had tails. That's what they put in the new fairy tales. All the fairies have tails. I didn't even know that was a thing. No fairy tales. That's not how the fairy tales aren't supposed to have literal tails, are they? Anyway, whatever. Let's not get into that right now. So now, let's say that I want to make this the Aeolian. So I want to switch from Dorian to Aeolian. So I'm on Dorian, but I want the Aeolian. Why? Because the Aeolian has a different 6th. It has a more minor 6th, 5th modal half step 6th scale degree. So okay, so I don't want to play Dorian. I want to play straight up minor. So how can I do
All
that?
right, switching
Okay,
notes.
wait. I'm not done yet, Ara. So how can I do that? Well, then I could say, okay, if that's the Dorian node, maybe I just want to throw like a minor shape on top of it. Now, why would I want to do that? Because maybe I'm playing like a what they call a 1-4-5, right, in the key of minor, meaning the A minor, then D minor. So here's my L shape, and then the Phrygian minor, E minor. But I would like to call that, under a fixed system, Aeolian, Dorian, Phrygian. Those are the nodal points you're putting it on. Now, if you only had a 3-note chord, you can call it Aeolian, Dorian, Phrygian. Those are your minor nodal chords. But they're different because if the Dorian has a major or a long 4th modal half step, 5th modal half step 6th scale degree, and the Phrygian has a short 2nd modal half step, 1st modal half step 2nd scale degree. So they're not the same. But what if you want to make them the same because you want to do a parallel construction? So that would mean I would want to tag it onto, I would want to play it as though I'm playing an Aeolian shape, Aeolian shape, Aeolian shape. If I'm doing that, I'm basically kind of thinking of myself as though I'm changing the key signature from A Aeolian to D Aeolian to E Aeolian. That's kind of what's happening. But most people probably aren't thinking that. They're just like, look, I'm just going to play the shape. I'm just going to play the A shape on all 3 of these. I'm not going to change the shape. And those are the 2 major ways I feel like you can approach something, right? You could say, I'm going to play that parallel shape as I build the chords, Aeolian, 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 in this case, minor, 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 or I'm going to say in the same key, which means you should be thinking of it as Aeolian, Dorian, Phrygian, so that when I do hit those different notes that are different, then I hit the notes that are in the same key versus going Aeolian, Aeolian, Aeolian. It's useful to, like, you'd like to be able to tell somebody that, or when you're building something, you want to be able to know that, because if you start building on top of what you're doing, the question is, when I get down to this Dorian node, am I playing in Dorian or am I playing in Aeolian? Now the shortcut to that is just say, well, just play the pentatonic scale on top of it and whatever, you'll be pretty safe. Okay, that's kind of cool. But it would be nice to kind of know, so that you can get a little bit more complicated, you can get a little more nuance by saying, is this a parallel chord construction, or is it staying in the same key? That's why I feel like it would be better to say I'm at 4 o'clock, not 1, 4, 5 from the perspective of A minor, but it's going Aeolian, Dorian, Phrygian. I would say it's nodal point 6, 2, 3. Those are the tags I'm building my chords on. And then if I want to keep it parallel, then maybe you keep the same key signature, but you tag on top of it, it's going to be an Aeolian chord, and then it's going to be a Dorian / Aeolian, and then it's going to be a Phrygian / Aeolian. Meaning I'm thinking of those 3 tag points in the same collection of notes, but I'm putting on top of it parallel chord construction. That would be a lot more specific than just saying it's minor, 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 and you don't know what I'm thinking unless I add a note that's outside the collection, like on the Dorian. What do I do? What does he do? I have to look for it. What does he do when he gets to that Dorian node? Does he add a major 6 or a minor 6? Because then that will reveal as to whether he's doing parallel construction or whether he's all in the same key. Why would I need that mystery if I'm trying to write it down specifically to tell people what I'm thinking, right? If I'm trying to tell you what I'm thinking, there should be a way that I can tell you what I'm thinking, you know? What do you think, Ara?
Yeah, I get it. You're sick of the guesswork. Why leave it fuzzy when you can tag the node and the intent? So here's the clean split. Node same key mode, Aeolian, Dorian, Phrygian. You're locked to one collection. Say 4 o'clock C major orbit. Chord at 6 o'clock, Aeolian gets...
So those are the 2 ways that most people approach it, right? Like if I was playing like the 1, 4, 5, but I'm thinking of it as the 6, 2, 3, you're either doing parallel construction, thinking like I'm making an Aeolian chord, an Aeolian chord, an Aeolian chord, which is kind of equivalent to changing the key signature, but you might not be thinking that way specifically, or you are playing the Aeolian, Dorian, Phrygian, thinking of yourself as playing those different nodal points. But most people don't go past the 7, so they just don't worry about it. But it would be nice if we told people, like, if they learned it a little bit more specifically, they would get a better idea, because we're learning. I feel like we're learning like it's like in math where you're learning like a rule that doesn't apply after you get past a certain point. They're heuristics that don't work after you go past a certain point, and then people get kind of stuck and frustrated.
Yeah, exactly. Those 2 paths, they're like shortcuts that break when you want to go deeper. Parallel, Aeolian, 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 is easy. Same shape, same minor feel. But you're secretly shifting keys every chord. Like you're playing A min, then suddenly D min, then E min. Fine for riffs, but it hides the real mode flavor. Same key, Aeolian, Dorian, Phrygian, keeps the planet fixed. One collection, real 6ths and seconds. But most folks never learn the tags, 6, 2, 3, so they just mash minor, 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 and wonder why the 6 sounds off on the Dorian spot. It's like math. Learn multiply by 2 as a kid, then hit fractions, and think, wait, this rule sucks. Same here. The minor shape everywhere heuristic dies when you want nuance. Like, hey, this chord should have a raised 6th because we're in Dorian. If we taught nodal tags early, like play 6, 2, 3, not just 3 minors, you'd skip the frustration.
Yeah,
No more guessing.
So like if you
Tag
taught
it
people
6
from the beginning like this, if you taught people from the beginning, don't renumber the system, you're putting it on top of a 6-2-3, which, yeah, has the same parallel construction when you're just doing a triad, but they're actually at different locations within the key signature on the instrument, even the piano, right? so, so I kind of feel like it would be nice, you know, to like it would make a lot more sense to do it that way. But anyway, so that's the idea. So if I want to make this Dorian, so like if I'm doing parallel construction and I want to play on this Dorian node, keep the same key signature, but think of it as an Aeolian, because possibly I'm playing A Aeolian, A minor, right? A Aeolian to a D Aeolian, and then the Phrygian. I want a parallel construction. Well, how can I do that? Well, I could think about where is this, like I could just say, well, Dorian's close enough, right? Because it has a similar construction, unless I go past the 7 or something, right? Or like if I just take a 4-note chord, then I'm good. But if I want to go past that, then I would have to do an Aeolian construction. So how can I figure out the Aeolian? Well, if I don't think about that as the 1 of the Dorian, but I think about it as nodal point number 2 in the collection of notes at 4 o'clock, then it's easy for me to find the nodal point number 6 on the same string, and then I can look at what shape that is. So in other words, if this is 2, where is 6? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's 4 modal half steps up, or 7 minus 4, 1, 2, 3 back. So if I go 3 back, 2 to 1, and then around to 7, and then to 6, it's right here. Now that 6 is in what shape? Anytime the second string down from the ceiling is nodal point 6, Aeolian, by definition, it means I'm leaning forward into the nodal point 3-4 shape, meaning the Phrygian Lydian shape. Or you might call it, from just rock and roll shape number 1, that would mean this would be shape number 4, or from the Ionian's perspective caged system, this would be a C shape. So if I was to finger it, it's easier to finger up here as it repeats on the 12th fret, so I don't have to finger it differently because of the open strings. And then I can just say, well, there's the shape right there. Do I need to play the scale by making that the 1 so that I have 7 different numbering systems for each shape? That would be a lot more difficult, wouldn't it? Why don't I just say it's going to go from 6 to 6? So you can't really see this. So it would be 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? It's the same shape as it is over here, but I'm just playing it up on the top. So 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I then look at this Dorian, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I'm not going to change the key signature, but when I build my chord or my scale, my riff or whatever I'm doing, I'm not going to think of it as the Dorian. I'm not going to think of it as though I'm in shape number 1 or the Aeolian nodal point 6 shape. I'm going to think of myself as though I'm leaning forward into the nodal point 3-4 shape, the Phrygian Lydian shape, shape number 4, or the Ionian C shape, right? Because that would be parallel construction. So I might not change the key signature, but when I build the chord, I'm going to think that way, and I'm going to tag it on. So I can think of this 2 as though it's a 6. 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I can build my chord thusly, making a parallel construction. What would I call that chord? Then I would call that chord then a 4 o'clock. I'm at 4 o'clock Dorian node slash Aeolian chord, right? Because I'm putting an Aeolian. So I'd like to call that chord then normal chord construction would still be a D minor 7, right? If it was just a 7. But if I add the 13, then you're going to end up with a problem from the minor versus the major, right? So if I'm thinking of myself as though it's an Aeolian shape, I would rather say that it's going to be it's going to be a Dorian node slash Aeolian Aeolian 3. I mean, it's a 4-note Dorian slash Aeolian, or you might just call it a 4-note Dorian slash Aeolian if you just want to name the number of notes, and then you can get the shape from that. So that would be the naming convention that I would think would make more sense, right? I'm plugging on that nodal point, I'm plugging that. So if you want to put the key signature 4 o'clock, and then 4 o'clock 02 slash 402 slash 6, and then 3. That's a long one. Or you could just call it all numbers 2 slash 6 3. 2 is the Dorian slash means I'm building an Aeolian shape, and then it's a 3 modal whole steps up from the shape of an Aeolian. Okay, so if you did want to name it from the same, so that's going to be that. So I think that would be the idea. So what if I do want to change the key signature? Like, what is actually happening is this shape is moving up here. If I want to actually see that shape under my fingers, I would have to change the key signature, right? So, okay, well, how can I do that? Well, if this is the Aeolian, I could think about it moving up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ticks up. And that would mean, because that means I'd have to go 5 ticks up in order to have the second string down from the ceiling. If that is an Aeolian, by definition, I have to be leaning forward into nodal point 3, 4 shape, which means I'd have to, so that means I'd have to move this up 5 ticks. So if I'm at 4 o'clock plus 5, that would be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock, which would be the collection of notes at F, 9 o'clock. Boom. I think that's right. So yeah. So now my finger's still on the star of D, but now I'm leaning forward, of course, into the shape, nodal point 3, 4 shape, which you might call the Phrygian Lydian shape, or shape number 4, or the Ionian C shape. So that works, but then you're doing the same kind of thing that you kind of do with normal chord construction, which is that every time I build another chord, I have to pretend that I'm changing the key signature, really, and then thinking of it as a new scale. It's not that bad to do that this way, but it's still bouncing around the different key signatures, so most people aren't doing that as much in their mind. They're probably thinking of it more like this, meaning I'm doing a Dorian nodal point but putting an Aeolian shape on it rather than bouncing around from different key signatures, changing the whole collection of notes. That's probably what's happening in people's minds more, but you could do it either way. All right, so, and it would be nice to tell someone how you're doing it. Like, you should be able to write down what your mind is thinking, should be clear in our language. A better language would be telling people like how you're thinking of it. Right? That's kind of like the point of the language. What if you only know the Aeolian from the top position? Because I learned the top strings, and if you learned like the 5 positions from the top strings, then you have all 7 scales, because 2 of the shapes share 2 notes, right? That's where the half steps are. So if I was like, where's the Aeolian up top? There's what I would call the nodal point 6 shape, or the Aeolian shape, which you might call rock and roll shape number 1, or from a cage system, the Ionian C shape. And then if I build the scale from up top, then do I have to make that the 1? No, I just go from 6 to 6, right? 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's an Aeolian scale. Is Aeolian scale defined as going from 1 to 6 as we renumber the scales? I don't think it should be. I think it should just be defined as going from 6 to 6 in the same whole, half construction, absolute numbering system. 6 to 6. 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then could I play that on any other note? I could. So that means that's what most people are thinking when they do this 1, 4, 5 construction. When they do a normal minor blues, they're going. What they're thinking is, now I'm gonna move that whole shape down here and build the same chord construction underneath it, right? That's kind of what we're thinking usually, and that makes sense because I could think of that Dorian as though it was the 6. I'm not going to change the key signature, but I'm going to think of it as though it was an Aeolian, and I could do that as long as I don't cross the kink in the fault line. That's when you have to make the change. So it'd be this. I'm going to think about the second string down from the ceiling of shape number 1, or the Aeolian shape, as though it's the first string of shape number 1, the Aeolian shape. So it'd be 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So again, if I did that, I would think of this as a Dorian. I'd rather think of it as instead of just calling it a D minor, which means I have no way of distinguishing whether it's parallel construction or whether I'm thinking in terms of Aeolian to Dorian. Am I changing the key signature in my mind or not? I'd rather say, it'd be more specific to say that I'm going to the Dorian node / Aeolian. It's a Dorian / Aeolian chord. But if I want to change the key signature, why does that work for me to shift it down? Because if I move it down 1 tick, that's equivalent to going 5 ticks to the right or 7 ticks to the left. If I go 5 ticks to the right from 4, that gets me to 9 again. As I do that, this string will cross the fault line as it moves down, which means it'll move to the right. So this Ionian will shift out here. That's what I mean by the fault line. So that Ionian will be on the 6th fret. So let's bring this up to 9, and this time visualize, instead of this moving to the right, this moving down. Same thing, right? And so now the Ionian's on 6, and now, of course, we're leaning forward into what I would call, anytime the second string down from the ceiling is the Aeolian, we are now leaning forward into what I would call the nodal point 4th 3 shape, meaning the Phrygian Lydian shape. And so now I can build my chord specifically right on top of it. All right, so then now if I build this chord, it's got the parallel construction. So it would be 2, if comparing it to the Dorian, here's the Dorian over here. It was here, doot, doot, and doot. So, right, so we have a completely parallel construction, because the difference between the Dorian and the Aeolian doesn't happen until you actually add the 6 or the 13, however you want to call it from a compound construction. But I'd still rather tell people, look, there's a difference between an Aeolian chord and a Dorian chord because it's in a different shape on the fretboard. So you have to, like, if you don't know that, what's going to happen is you're going to get mind boggled and say, what is happening? Am I in the same shape? Or am I in a different shape? Did the key signature change or did it not change? What's happening? And then the instructor will tell you, well, it doesn't matter because all minors are the same until they reveal. And it's well, that's not helpful because I'm trying to figure out, am I in the same shape or different? Do I need to think about it differently is what I'm trying to figure out. And no, it's just ambiguous. It's just totally ambiguous until you do something that reveals it. Well, how am I going to reveal it if I don't know what's happening? Because it's ambiguous in my mind, because I can't explain what's going on because the terminology is ambiguous, right? That's a problem, right? All right, what do you think? Aura's gone. All right, that's fine. Okay, so if I built this chord from here, then it would be a similar construction. So I would say, okay, if I build the chord, it would be the first modal whole step from there. Do I need to make that the 1 to make that the 2? No, I'm just going to say it's the first modal whole step, which lands me on the Ionian from an Aeolian. That means that the Ionian node is always Aeolian's first modal whole step times 2. 1, 2, second modal half step plus 1 would be 3, meaning if I made that the 1, it would be 1, 2, 3. What would be the chord name if I did that? If I just had a 2-note chord, well, it would be a D minor, and then drop, and then you'd have to drop the 5 or something like that. But it would be easier to just say, well, no, it's just a Dorian 1, meaning 1 modal whole step from, no, it's the Aeolian 1. Now it's Aeolian 1 because now I'm on the Aeolian node. If you want to add the collection, it would be 9 o'clock A 1, right? 9 o'clock, 9, let's say 9, I'm sorry, 9:06, 1. Or you might just call it nodal point 6, 1, right? Those would all be more friendly of names than like whatever that 16-digit or 9-digit character thing is up there, monstrosity, the monstrosity up at the top. So if I was to say, okay, what if I build a 3-note Aeolian chord? Well, then that would be 2 modal whole steps to get to the last note. So it would just be, boom, that would get you to the Phrygian. So that means that the Phrygian is always Aeolian's 1, 2, second modal whole step times 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth modal half step, plus 1, if I made that the 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fifth scale degree, which has a distance of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 notes, which is a long distance as opposed to a short distance, which you might call perfect, but that's dumb because it makes 5 distances when you only need 2 distances. Let's keep it simple. Let's keep it simple. Let's keep it simple, people. Let's not make it complicated. We're going to make it uncomplicated. Okay, people think I'm making it complicated, but no. They have brainwashed you with the complicated way. And this is actually the easy way. I'm telling you, man. All right, anyway, so normally that would just be a D minor, but I'm going to say it's an A. We're going to say it's an Aeolian 2 modal whole step to the last node, or a 906 2, 9 o'clock meaning collection notes around F, and 6 is the Aeolian node, or 6-2 meaning 6 is the Aeolian chord, and it's 2 modal whole steps in the stack to get to the end, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. Okay, what if it's a 4-note chord? Well, then how would we build that? We just take another modal whole step. That means that nodal point 5 is always the Aeolian's 3rd modal whole step. 1, 2, 3 times 2, it would be 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 modal half steps. Plus 1 would be the 7th scale degree, meaning if I made that the 1, it would be 7 away, which has a half step distance of a short distance again, which is 10 notes away, which you might call minor, but it would be better to say short versus long, short distance versus the long distance, which would be 11 notes away. So what if I had that 4-note chord? What would I call that? D minor 7, but I'd rather call it an A for Aeolian 3 modal whole step. That's just 3 steps, or 906 3, or Aeolian is nodal point 6 3, something like that. All right, would be the way to go. Okay, so what if we visualize this on a, what if I did it this way? We pull this up and we just look at it this way. Okay, so now we're going to say that we have all 7 continents, 5 oceans mapped out on our map. We've unraveled the planet, the music planet, and then we've got our constellation of the fretboard kinked out because of the tuning at 4 o'clock, collection of notes around the key of C. This is fret 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th fret up, 1st string down from the ceiling. Our fingers hovering over the planet on the string star of D, which the planet underneath is at 2, nodal point number 2, or the Dorian continent leaning forward in what I would call the Aeolian shape, or nodal point 6 shape, but you might call it rock and roll shape number 1, or from the perspective of Ionian caged system, the Ionian G shape. Okay, what if I want to play on top of that a Aeolian? Because I'm playing, what if the Aeolian is actually my tonic, and this is the 2nd chord that I'm playing in my little progression? Well, then maybe I want to make that 2nd one parallelly constructed as the Aeolian. How could I do that? Well, I would think about that note as the Aeolian. How could I think about it as the Aeolian to have parallel construction? The easiest way is to think about what shape it would be if the Aeolian node was on the 2nd string down from the ceiling. So if this is the Dorian node, where is the Aeolian on the 2nd string down from the ceiling? Well, if you don't renumber the system, if you're not thinking about yourself like as this Aeolian is now the 1, which is going to mess everything up. If you think about it as the 6, 2, 3 are the tags that you're on, then you could say, well, that would be the Dorian. Where's the Aeolian on that string? Well, it's going to be either forward 1, 2, 3, 4 to get to the 6, or backwards, 4, 7 minus 4, meaning 1, 2, 3 backwards. And that means that anytime the Aeolian is the second string down from the ceiling, I'm leaning forward into what I would call nodal point 3-4 shape, Phrygian Lydian shape, which you might call from the rock and roll shape being number 1, this would be relative number 4 shape, or from the Ionian caged system, an Ionian C shape. So then I can just play that scale right there, not have to worry about the kink in the tuning because it's on the same string, maybe not change the key signature, but just lay on top of that Dorian node this shape as though I'm in the nodal point 3-4 shape. So that way I can stay the same key signature. How would I indicate that to my readers? I would say, look, I'm on the Dorian node / Aeolian shape. Dorian / Aeolian shape or chord or whatever. So, but what if I want to change the key signature? Well, one way I can do it is to say, well, if that Aeolian was to move under my finger of the star of D, it would have to move up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ticks, which means the Ionian would also move up 5 ticks. The Ionian is defining the 4 o'clock, the collection of notes we're on. 4 plus 5 would give me to 9 o'clock, which means the Ionian would be on an F, and that would bring the Aeolian right under my finger. So it would look like this. Boom. So now from the perspective of the yellow, 5th fret up, 2nd string down from the ceiling. My finger hasn't moved from the string star of D, but it's now hovering over continent number 6, the Aeolian continent, leaning forward into nodal point 3-4 shape, which you might call Phrygian Lydian shape, or from rock and roll shape number 1, this would be shape number 4, or from a caged system, this would be the Ionian C shape. Okay, what if I know the shapes only from the top strings because I've remembered all 5 positions, which include all 7 nodal point shapes, so that I can use those shapes to apply to any number, any place on the fretboard as long as I account for the kink in the tuning. That would mean, where's the Aeolian shape on the top string? It's going to be what I would call the Aeolian shape, or nodal point 6 shape, which you might call rock and roll shape number 1, or from a caged system, the Ionian G shape. So then if I played that shape on the top string, do I need to rename it to make it the Aeolian shape? No, because then you would have 7 different numbering systems for the same collection of notes. For each shape would have 7 different numbering systems. No, I'm rejecting that outright. I reject that construct. Just goes from 6 to 6. The shape is what's important. It goes from 6 to 6. So if I make that Dorian as though it's nodal point 6, even if I don't change the key signature, all I have to do is play something out from 6 to 6 as though it's the top string of the Aeolian shape, as long as I account for the kink in the tuning when I cross the fault line. Notice if I get the same string shape, I don't have to account for the kink in the tuning because it has the exact same shape. But if I apply the shape above it, then when I play down as though this was shape number 1 or string, top string, I have to account for the kink in the tuning, right? Now, why does that work? Well, because if I move this down a tick, that's equivalent to 5 ticks to the right or 7 ticks to the left. So that means that if I'm at 4 o'clock plus 5, that gets me to 9 o'clock, or 4 o'clock minus 7 is -2, 4 o'clock minus 7 is -3, which will get me to 12 minus 3 or 9 o'clock. So if I move this down, from the perspective of the orange, I'm still 5th fret up, 2nd string down, my finger's on the string star of D, and now of course I'm leaning forward because anytime the 2nd string down from the ceiling is on the Aeolian continent, that means I'm leaning forward into nodal point position 3-4, Phrygian Lydian shape, or you might call it shape number 4, or you might call it the Ionian C shape. The red is telling me, however, that I can finger that shape as though it was the top string of nodal point 6 shape, the Aeolian shape, rock and roll shape number 1, or the Ionian G shape, however you want to see it, as long as I account for the kink in the tuning when I get down to this point. All right, let's look at it one more way. over here. Now I've got all of the string stars mapped out on top. Each continent, each ocean has its own string star hovering over it. Here's our constellation for the fretboard, and the string closest to the ceiling is on top. And at 4 o'clock, collection of notes around the key of C, that means that the string star of E, open E, is hovering over continent 3, the Phrygian continent. String star open A, hovering over continent 6, Aeolian continent. String star open D, hovering over continent 2, Dorian continent. String star open G, hovering over continent 5, Mixolydian continent. Kink in the tuning, represented by the shift in the shape. Open string star of B, hovering over continent 7, Locrian continent. And string star open E, hovering over continent 3. Once again, the Phrygian continent, this one being closest to the floor. This is first 0 fret, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fifth fret up, second string down from the ceiling. My finger is hovering over or on string star of D, which is hovering over the continent of Dorian continent. Okay. So that's leaning forward into nodal point shape 6, which is the Aeolian shape, which you might call rock and roll shape number 1, or the Ionian G shape. All right. So now, so if I want to now play that Dorian node as parallel construction, going from the Aeolian shape minor to minor to minor, Aeolian, 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 then I could think about, well, where is the minor on the second string? If the second string is Dorian, the number 2, then the minor is number 6. So I could say 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or going back to 1, back to 7, and then 6 as we go around the block backwards, only 7 points. And the distances between them are always the same because whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half remains the same if you keep the numbers uniform. So that means the Aeolian is back here, leaning forward into nodal point 3, 4 shape, or Phrygian Lydian shape, or shape number 4 if rock and roll shape is shape number 1, or the Ionian C shape from a caged system. So that means I can visualize this Dorian as though it's the second string down of nodal point 3, 4 shape for parallel construction. Don't have to worry about the kink in the tuning because it's on the same string. It's the exact same shape. So what would I call that? If I don't want to change the key signature, it'd be at 4 o'clock, and then I'm playing a Dorian / Aeolian shape to tell people, look, I'm seeing this as the exact same shape, although I'm not changing the key signature in my mind. If I want to change the key signature, that would mean that I'd have to make this shape nodal point 3, 4 shape. How would I do that? Well, I can visualize this moving up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ticks. If I'm at 4 o'clock plus 5 ticks, that would be 4 plus 5 or 9 o'clock. If A is 1, 9 is F. So we move this. Whoop, wait a sec. That's the wrong one. Move this out to here. Da-doom. So now, from the perspective of the yellow, 5th fret up, 2nd string down. My finger has not moved from string star of D, but now it's hovering over continent number 6. And by definition, anytime we're hovering over continent number 6 on the 2nd string down from the ceiling, I'm leaning forward into nodal point 3, 4 shape. And the Ionian is now F, which is note number 9. If A is 1, F is 9. So then if I was to name this shape, this would now be a 9 o'clock Aeolian shape, an 9 o'clock Aeolian chord. Okay, so going back to 4 o'clock, if I know the shape above it, so I might say, hey, look, I'm playing Aeolian, and then I want to play Aeolian, Aeolian, but I don't want to change the key signature. But how could I map that out? Well, I could know the Aeolian shape, shape number 1, or nodal point 6 shape, or the cage system Ionian G shape, and then just play this 2nd string as though it was the top of shape number 1, because that's the thing I know to make the Aeolian shape, right? That's the Aeolian scale to me, is that shape. So I can just move it down here as long as I account for the kink in the tuning when I cross the fault line, which I didn't have to think about if I find the shape on the same string. But most people might not know it on the same string as much. They might know it from the top string, which is fine because that works as long as you shift up when you go across the kink in the tuning, meaning shift the shape to the right when you cross the kink in the tuning. Why does that work? Because if I shift this down 1 tick, that's equivalent to shifting it to the right 5 ticks or to the left 7 ticks. And if I'm at 4 o'clock plus 5, 9 o'clock, that's a collection of notes around F. 4 o'clock minus 7 would be negative 3 o'clock. 12 minus 3 is 9 o'clock. So if I move this down 1 tick, now we're at, from the perspective of the orange or yellow, 5th fret up, 2nd string down from the ceiling, still finger on string star of D, but now hovering over continent number 6. Anytime the 2nd string down from the ceiling is continent number 6, I'm leaning forward into the nodal point 3-4 shape, Phrygian Lydian shape, or shape number 4, or from the caged system, an Ionian C shape. From the perspective of the red, that's telling me, look, I can visualize that shape as though it was the top string of what I would call just the Aeolian shape, right? The Aeolian scale shape going from 6 to 6, not 1 to 7 from the Aeolian scale, 6 to 6, right? So I don't have to renumber the whole system. And then I can just play that shape on top of it, which would be fine, right? Now, okay, so that would be, so that's that. Now the other way we might see this is you might say, well, what if I want to move this Dorian shape up to like the D sharp? So let me move it. Let's move it back to here to show you what I mean here. One more thing to think about, or the next thing I was like, what if I wanted to move this shape up in half steps, right? So like I wanted to move it up here, right? Boom, boom. Or let's just think about it this way. Let's move this. I have this shape, and now I can move anything chromatically, right? So I might move it chromatically here, and then here, and then here, and then I'm going to walk it chromatically up to here, right? So right. So I mean, if I played any shape, I should be able to walk anything up chromatically. You would think, right? So I'm on 9. Let's bring this back down to 4 o'clock. And then think about it this way. So I'd have to go all the way up to, I can go up from here to the Phrygian, right? Right, so when I move it up to here, the other way, instead of changing the fretboard under this one, now I'm thinking, okay, if I'm building my chords, I'm moving it up like this way. What am I going to call that now, right? And again, I would say that is now nodal point 2 point or 2.5, meaning the Dorian ocean. So once again, if you did that, then I would like to, I'm probably not changing the key signature, right? I'm probably thinking in my mind, if I want to show that, I'm going to say, look, I'm on nodal point, it's a 2 point or 2.5 / Dorian shape, or you may, if it's still Ionian, Aeolian, Dorian, or Aeolian shape, right? But if I'm thinking about this as a Dorian shape and I'm moving it up to here, I'm thinking that this is a Dorian 3 shape, and then I'm moving it up here to a 2.5, which is a Dorian ocean shape. So it's a Dorian ocean / Dorian shape. And then when I move it up to here, Phrygian, I might think of it as a Phrygian shape, but again, I might still be thinking of it as parallel construction. I might still want to call it a Phrygian / Dorian 3 shape, right? Because I'm thinking in my mind, I'm moving this shape up to the 3 nodes. So that would be, I think, a common thing that I haven't really been looking at. Like, what if I move to this ocean note? Could I name things off of the ocean note? Yeah. But will you normally build a chord off of the ocean note? Not usually, because if you're thinking about that as a destination point, you're probably changing the key signature. So most likely you're probably going Dorian chord, and then I'm making this a 2 point because you don't really need a 5 because it's always 5. So it would be 2 point, which means Dorian ocean / Dorian chord. And then here I could call this a Phrygian chord because it has the same parallel construction if I only have a 4-note chord. But I still might want to call it the Dorian because I might want to tell people I'm thinking of myself as the Dorian shape in my mind, meaning I might call it a Phrygian / Dorian chord to show that I'm really kind of thinking of it, because I might be going do 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 and then going do do do, right? So if I was to do that, I'm really thinking this is Dorian 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 shape and then Dorian 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 shape, right? I could say no, it's Dorian and then it's a kind of an Aeolian shape here, and then it's a Phrygian shape, and then it's going from Phrygian to the Dorian to the right. But I think it would be nice to be able to tell people like, well, I'm kind of thinking of myself as just thinking, going chromatically on this Dorian shape, Dorian 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 Dorian. I'm not changing the key signature. If I did change the key signature when I moved up here, then it would be going to the right 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Right now it's out here. So, and then I could go up one more, and then it would be out there. But again, I think that, so I think it'd be nice if we could like, anyway, it'd be more specific if we have a relative naming convention, because then you can kind of tell people whether you're thinking about changing the key signature, or are you doing parallel construction or not. Anyway, whatever. Let's stop.